Shalom, Yasharala. All right, so it's your brother Remain True Yaram Yahweh getting back into this study on Esau and Nimrod. All right, so for this third part, we're gonna go ahead and jump into the book of Jasher. All right, the upright judges. All right, and we're gonna start off in chapter 8. No, let's look at chapter. Matter of fact, let's look. It's a few verses in chapter 7 we need to look at. Yeah, let's start at chapter 7 and verse 43. And they found a large valley opposite to the east, and they built him a large, extensive city. And Nimrod called the name of the city that he built Shinar. All right, just like we just saw in Canaan. Okay. All right, so that was that's Jasher 7 and 45. No, 43. All right, that's a precept about his city and his the beginning of his kingdom, just like we saw in the Canaan. All right, so Shinar means shaken, for Yahweh had vehemently shaken his enemies and destroyed them. And Nimrod dwelt in Shinar, and he reigned securely, and he fought with his enemies, and he subdued them, and he prospered in all his battles, and his kingdom became very great. And all nations and tongues heard of his fame, and they gathered themselves to him. And they bowed down to the earth, and they brought him offerings, and became the Lord and King. And they all dwelt with him in the city at Shinar. And Nimrod reigned in the earth over all the sons of Noah, and they were all under his power and counsel. And all the earth was of one tongue and words of union. But Nimrod did not go in the ways of Yahweh, and he was more wicked than all the men that were before him, from the days of the flood until those days. And he made gods of wood and stone, and he bowed down to them, and he rebelled against Yahweh, and taught all his subjects and the people of the earth his wicked ways. And Mardon, his son, was more wicked than his father. And everyone that heard of his acts, and everyone that heard of the acts of Mardon, the son of Nimrod, would say concerning him, from the wicked goeth forth wickedness. Therefore it became a proverb in the whole earth, saying, from the wicked goeth forth wickedness. And it was current in the words of men from that time to this. And Terah the son of Nahor, prince of Nimrod's host, was in those days very great in the sight of the king and his subjects. And the king and princes loved him, and they elevated him very high. And Terah took a wife, and her name was Amthelo, the daughter of Cornibah. The wife of Terah conceived and bare him a son in those days. And the wife of Terah conceived and bare him a son in those days. Terah was 70 years old when he begat him, and Terah called the name of his son that was born to him Abram, because the king had raised him in those days and dignified him above all his princes that were with him. All right, now Jasher chapter 8. All right, let's get to the meat. The vision concerning Abram and his seed. All right, and it was in the night that Abram was born that all the servants of Terah and all the wise men of Nimrod and his conjurers came and ate and drank in the house of Terah, and they rejoiced with them on that night. All right, let's watch this sign and wonder in heaven again, dealing with the star in the east. All right, same concept, the promise of the Messiah when he was born, and also You know, in Revelation, he tells us he's the bright morning star. Well, that's that bright morning star that you see in the east in certain seasons. Okay. All right. So let's pick back up at chapter 8 and verse 2. When all the wise men and conjurers went out from the house of terror, they lifted up their eyes toward heaven that night to look at the stars. And they saw, and behold, one very large star came from the east and ran in the heavens, and he swallowed up the 4 stars from the 4 sides of the heavens. Okay. Verse 3. And all the wise men of the king and his conjurers were astonished at the sight, and the sages understood this matter, and they knew its import. And they said to each other, this only betokens the child that has been born to terror this night, who will grow up and be fruitful and multiply and possess all the earth, he and his children forever. And he and his seed will slay great kings and inherit their lands. And the wise men and conjurers went home that night, and in the morning all these wise men and conjurers rose up early and assembled in an appointed house. And they spoke and said to each other, behold, the sight that we saw last night is hidden from the king. It has not been made known to him. And should this thing get known to the king in the latter days, he will say to us, why have ye concealed this matter from me? And then we shall all suffer death. Therefore, now let us go and tell the king the sight which we saw, and the interpretation thereof, and we shall then remain clear. And they did so, and they all went to the king and bowed down to him to the ground, and they said, may the king live, may the king live. We heard that a son was born to Terah, the son of Nahor, the prince of thy hosts. And we yesterday came to his house, and we ate and drank and rejoiced with him that night. And when thy servants went out from the house of Terah to go to our respective homes to abide there for the night, we lifted up our eyes to heaven, and we saw a great star coming from the east, and the same star ran with great speed and swallowed up 4 great stars from the 4 sides of the heavens. And thy servants were astonished at the sight which we saw, and were greatly terrified, and we made our judgment upon the sight, and knew by our wisdom the proper interpretation thereof, that this thing applies to the child that is born to terror, who will grow up and multiply greatly, and become powerful, and kill all the kings of the earth, and inherit all their lands, he and his seed forever. So you guys get that? That means we're going to inherit America too. That's right. We're going to inherit all the lands of the earth. Okay? That's right. Every place we set our foot upon, the Most High said he's given to us for an inheritance. So that means since when they took us captive, they forfeited that land because they brought us there, and we put our foot on it. So it's ours now. That's right. And we were captive in all the lands of the earth, so we're going to inherit all the lands of the earth. Seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All right, here we go. All right, so Jasher 8 and 11. No, let's pick up at 12. And now, our Lord and King, behold, we have truly acquainted thee with what we have seen concerning this child. If it seemeth good to the king to give his father value for this child, we will slay him before he shall grow up and increase in the land, and his evil increase against us, that we and our children perish through this evil. All right, let me read that again. If it seemeth good to the king to give his father value for this child, we will slay him before he shall grow up and increase in the land, and his evil increase against us, that we and our children perish through his evil. And the king heard their words, and they seemed good in his sight. And he sent and called for Terah, and Terah came before the king. Okay. And the king said to Terah, I have been told that a son was born yesterday to thee. I have been told that a son was yesterday born to thee. And after this manner was observed in the heavens at his birth. And now therefore give me the child, that we may slay him before his evil springs up against us. And I will give thee for his value thy house full of silver and gold. All right, you see that? Terah's the king Nimrod's high-ranking prince, all right? And so it's just a matter of business to Nimrod right now. Because why? Look, Terah, you got it good right now. All right, the kingdom looking good right now. And that old seed of yours is gonna threaten to mess up what we got, man. So I'm gonna make you even richer in the kingdom and give you your house full of silver and gold, Terah. And we're gonna kill that boy of yours. All right, but you know, that's that carnal way of thinking. But Terah, of course, being the father of this special seed that the Most High has promised. Okay. You know, from the beginning, the Christ, right? The Savior, right? Terah gonna have a different perspective. He's gonna have the moral perspective, okay? All right, so let's look on. Picking up at 8 and 20. 8 and 20. Give unto me the great and beautiful horse. No, we got to pick up at, hold on. Salakia, let me go back. Let's pick up at 17, Yasharallah. And Terah answered the king and said to him, My lord and king, I have heard thy words, and thy servant shall do all that his king desired. But my lord and king, I will tell thee what happened to me yesterday night, that I may see what advice the king will give his servant, and then I will answer the king upon what he has just spoken. And the king said, Speak. And Terah said, King, Salakia. And Terah said to the king, Aon, son of Mored, came to me yesterday night, saying, Give unto me the great and beautiful horse that the king gave thee, and I will give thee silver and gold and straw and provender for its value. And I said to him, Wait till I see the king concerning thy words. And behold, whatever the king said, that will I do. And now, my lord and king, behold, I have made this thing known to thee, and the advice which my king will give unto his servant, that will I follow. And the king heard the words of Terah, and his anger was kindled, and he considered him in the light of a fool. All right, why? Because this is the king's horse we're talking about. Okay? Yeah. This man is mad because Terah had the nerve to even repeat the proposition of surrendering Nimrod's fine horse. Okay. All right. So here we go. Let's look at this thing. All right. And the king heard the words of Terah, and his anger was kindled, and he considered him in the light of a fool. And the king answered Terah, and he said to him, Art thou so silly, ignorant, or deficient in understanding to do this thing, to give thy beautiful horse for silver and gold, or even for straw and provender? Art thou so short of silver and gold that thou shouldest do this thing, because thou canst not obtain straw and provender to feed thy horse? And what is silver and gold to thee, or straw and provender, that thou shouldest give away that fine horse, just like we just said, which I gave thee, like which there is none to be had on the whole earth? All right, so you see this heathen, wicked Nimrod got way more value for this thoroughbred than he do for Terah's beloved firstborn son. All right, madness. But that's the spirit that spoke that proverb through Terah just then, to make this man realize how idiotic his proposition for his son Abram would be. Let's look. All right, pick up verse 25. And the king left off speaking, and Terah answered the king, saying, Like unto this has the king spoken to his servant. I beseech thee, my lord and king, what is this which thou didst say unto me, saying, Give thy son that we may slay him, and I will give thee silver and gold for his value. What shall I do with silver and gold after the death of my son? Who shall inherit me? Surely then at my death the silver and gold will return to my king who gave it. All right? Yeah, Nimrod. You see how stupid that sounded? You want to value a horse, but you don't want to value this man's flesh and blood son. Okay? So that was the deal. We're not going to stay in here too long. We're going to jump on over and get to Esau coming in this picture. All right, but we wanted to show that. Let's look on a little bit more. Verse 27. And when the king heard the words of Terah and the parable which he, see that parable, and the parable which he brought concerning the king, it grieved him greatly, and he was vexed at this thing, and his anger burned within him. And Terah saw that the anger of the king was kindled against him. And he answered the king, saying, All that I have is in the king's power. Whatever the king desired to do, his servant, whatsoever the king desired to do to his servant, that let him do. Yeah, even my son, he is in the king's power without value in exchange. He and his two brothers that are older than he. All right, so that ain't Terah's only son. Abram would have been Terah's third son. All right, exactly. And according to canon, that's the way it would have been too. Also, exactly, people. Hello. Amen. Bless your spirit of truth. All right, so let's look on verse 30. And Terah answered the king, saying, I beseech thee, my lord and king, to let thy servant speak a word before thee, and let the king hear the word of his servant. And Terah said, Let my king give me 3 days, 3 days time, till I consider this matter within myself, and consult with my family concerning the words of my king. And he pressed the king greatly to agree to this. And the king hearkened to Terah, and he did so, and he gave him 3 days time. And Terah went out from the king's presence, and he came home to his family, and spoke to them all the words of the king. And the people were greatly afraid. And it was in the 3rd day that the king sent to Terah, saying, Send me thy son for a price, as I spoke to thee. And shouldest thou not do this, I will send and slay all thou hast in thy house, so that thou shalt not even have a dog remaining. And Terah hastened, as the thing was urgent from the king. And he took a child from one of his servants, which his handmaid had born to him that day. And Terah brought the child to the king and received value for him. And Yahweh was with Terah in this matter, that Nimrod might not cause Abram's death. And the king took the child from Terah, and with all his might dashed his head to the ground, for he thought it had been Abram. And this was concealed from him from that day, and it was forgotten by the king, as it was the will of providence not to suffer Abram's death. And Terah took Abram his son secretly, together with his mother and nurse, and he concealed them in a cave, and he brought them their provisions monthly. And Yahweh was with Abram in the cave, and he grew up, and Abram was in the cave 10 years. And the king and his princes, soothsayers and sages, thought that the king had killed Abram. All right. So you see Nimrod having a motive, okay? Him having a motive to slay Abram and Abram's seed. Now you got to understand that Abram and Abram's seed, and which will become Abraham's seed, They're going to be made aware, all right, of this motive of Nimrod, okay? You know, because terror would have made Abram aware of it, so on and so forth. Now let's move on to chapter 26 of Jasher. All right. And in the 59th year of the life of Isaac, the son of Abram, Rebekah his wife was still barren in those days. And Rebekah said unto Isaac, Truly I have heard, my lord, that thy mother Sarah was barren in her days until my lord Abram, thy father, prayed for her, and she conceived. And she conceived by him. Now therefore stand up, pray thou also to the Most High, and he will hear thy prayer and remember us through his mercies. And Isaac answered his wife Rebekah, saying, Abraham had already prayed for me to the Most High to multiply his seed. Now therefore this barrenness must proceed to us from thee. And Rebekah said unto him, But arise now thou also, and pray, that Yahweh may hear thy prayer, and grant me children. And Isaac hearkened to the words of his wife, and Isaac and his wife rose up and went to the land of Moriah to pray there and to seek Yahweh. And when they had reached that place, Isaac stood up and prayed to Yahweh on account of his wife, because she was barren. And Isaac said, O Yahweh, most high of heaven and earth, whose goodness and mercies fill the earth, thou who didst take my father from his father's house and from his birthplace, and didst bring him unto this land, and didst say unto him, To thy seed will I give the land, and thou didst promise him, and didst declare unto him, I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven, and as the sand of the sea. Now may thy words be verified which thou didst speak unto my father. For thou art Yahweh our power, our eyes are toward thee, to give us seed of men, as thou didst promise us. For thou art Yahweh, and our Most High, and our eyes are directed toward thee only. And Yahweh heard the prayer of Isaac, the son of Abraham, and Yahweh entreated him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. And in about 7 months after the children struggled together within her, and it pained her greatly that she was wearied on account of them. And she said to all the women who were in the land, Did such a thing happen to you as it has to me? And they said unto her, No. And she said unto them, Why am I alone in this amongst all the women that were upon earth? And she went to the land of Moriah to seek Yahweh on account of this. And she went to Shem and Eber, his son, to make inquiries of them in this matter, and that they should seek Yahweh in this thing respecting her. And she also asked Abraham to seek and inquire of Yahweh about all that had befallen her. And they all inquired of Yahweh concerning this matter. Hey, the prayers of the righteous avail it much. Amen. Amen. All right, they all inquired Yahweh, and they all inquired of Yahweh concerning this matter. Okay. And they brought her word from Yahweh and told her, 2 children are in thy womb, and 2 nations shall rise from them. And one nation shall be stronger than the other, and the greater shall serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were completed, she knelt down, and behold, there were twins in her womb, as the Lord had spoken to her. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and all the people of the land called his name Esau, saying that this one was made complete from the womb. You see that? Esau just means grown man. It just means man. Like Adam, it just means man. Red man. You know, red. ruddy. Man, why? Because when you come out, man, you're normally pale when you come out as a babe. But Esau came out ruddy already, meaning that he was going to develop pigmentation early. You see, it doesn't mean that he's white, it means that he's dark. Oh man, if you people only would put this stuff together. All right. Okay, so they called him Esau. Why did they call him Esau? And the people of the land called his name Esau, saying that this one was made complete from the womb. You see that? It don't mean no melanin. You know, it don't mean no melanin, absent of melanin, red. No, it means Adam red. Was Adam a white boy? All right then. And hairy, he was hairy all over, meaning that you're not supposed to have hair all over the place like a babe. As a babe, you don't get that hair all over the place until you reach puberty. We all have hair all over the place. It doesn't mean that he's a big hairy monster. That's not what it means, man. It doesn't mean that he looked like Sasquatch. All right, let's keep going. Let's look at Esau's relationship with Nimrod. All right, so he was called Nimrod. He was called Esau. Okay, he was called Esau because he came out red all over like a hairy garment. All right, and that was considered to be complete. That means that was considered to be a man already. He looked like a man already. All right, and after that came his brother, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel. Therefore, they call his name Jacob. You see these precepts line up, and how. And Isaac, the son of Abraham, was 60 years old when he begat them. You see that? How old was he when we saw it in the canon? 60 years old, okay? Stuff lines up. All right, let's look at 17. This is important. And the boys grew up to their 15th year, and they came amongst the society of men. Esau was a designing and deceitful man, and an expert hunter in the field. And Jacob was a man perfect and wise, dwelling in tents, just like we just saw in Genesis, feeding flocks and learning the instructions of Yahweh and the commands of his father and mother. Okay? All right. So now let's go ahead and look over to chapter 27 real quick. No. Before we go to 27, let's look down at verse 35. Okay? So 26. Jasher 26 and verse 35. And Yahweh, let me get it right here so you guys can see it. And Yahweh was with him and delivered him. Speaking of Abram, okay. And Yahweh was with him and delivered him from the counsel of Nimrod and his people. And when he made war with the 4 kings of Elam, he conquered them. And he brought all the children of the earth to serve to the service of Yahweh, or to the Most High, and he taught them the ways of Yahweh and caused them to know Yahweh. You see that? That's where all you nations get your blessings, because you learn from the people, you learn from Abram, you learn from us. And when you do that, you bring forth righteous sacrifices to the Most High, and that gets you accepted by him, okay? But you don't get the same inheritance that Abram get. No, you don't, okay? All right, here we go. All right, so let's 37. And he formed a grove. Let's look at some of Abram's work. And he formed a grove, and he planted a vineyard therein, and he had always prepared in his tent meat and drink to those that passed through the land, that they might satisfy themselves in his house. And Yahweh the Most High delivered the whole earth on account of Abraham. And it was after the death of Abraham that the Most High blessed his son Isaac and his children. And Yahweh was with Isaac as he had been with his father Abraham. For Isaac kept all the commandments of Yahweh as Abraham his father had commanded him. He did not turn to the right or to the left from the right path which his father had commanded him. All right. So 27. Here we go. And Esau at that time, after the death of Abraham, frequently went in the field to hunt. All right, he's a teenager right now, people. And Nimrod, king of Babel, the same was Amramphel, also frequently went with his. You see that? So Nimrod, king of Babel, is who? Amramphel, an evil spirit. You see that? That's right, Amramphel, a demon. That's who Nimrod is now. Okay, and so look, here we go. Remember, in canon we saw Esau going into Jacob faint, weary for his life. Remember that? Coming from the field, right? All right, remember that. And Nimrod, king of Babel, the same was Amramphel, also frequently went with his mighty men to hunt in the field and to walk about with his men in the cool of the day. And Nimrod was observing Esau all the days, for jealousy was formed in the heart of Nimrod against Esau all the days. And on a certain day, Esau went in the field to hunt, and he found Nimrod walking in the wilderness with his 2 men. And all his mighty men and his people were with him in the wilderness, but they removed at a distance from him, and they went from him in a different direction, and they went from him in different directions to hunt. And Esau concealed himself for Nimrod, and he lurked for him in the wilderness. So you see what's going on here? Who knows how many hours Esau just had to wait, because he was a hunter, right? But he see Nimrod, and guess who's on the menu today? Guess whose game today? Nimrod's game today. And Esau's concealed in the field, waiting for the opportune moment. Okay? He lurked for him, okay? He lurked for him in the wilderness. And Nimrod and his men that were with him did not know him. They didn't know him, so they don't know how Esau looked. And Nimrod and his men frequently walked about in the field. You see that? So Esau know who Nimrod is, but Nimrod don't know who Esau is. Why do Esau know? Because Esau know, hey, this chump who running things got the whole world in subjection to him. But guess what? I'm the seed of Abraham. You know what I'm saying? I'm the seed of the Most High servant. I'm the seed of Isaac. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man. That's how Esau feel. He a teenager. He a mighty hunter with a reputation. And Nimrod ain't nothing but a foreigner, stranger. And Esau deceitful, cunning, and he ready to take him out. That's all it is to it. Esau just ready to get him. And just like the prophecy said that the seed of Abraham the seed of terror would do. The seed of Abraham would do this. Destroy kings and their kingdoms. All right, let's look on. All right. I know y'all probably reading that and see that the head came off. And Nimrod and his men that were with him did not know him, meaning Esau. And Nimrod and his men frequently walked about in the field at the cool of the day, and to know where his men were hunting in the field. And Nimrod and 2 of his men that were with him came to the place where they were, when Esau started suddenly from his lurking place and drew his sword and hastened and ran to Nimrod and cut off his head. All right. So this is how it went down. Esau was lurking for him, okay? Oh, I skipped some stuff, didn't I? And Nimrod was serving Esau all the days, for jealousy was formed in the heart of Nimrod against Esau all the days. Okay. And on a certain day, Esau went in the field to hunt, and he found Nimrod. Okay, so Nimrod already had his animosity against Esau. Okay, he said he was observing Esau all the days, for jealousy was formed in the heart of Nimrod against Esau. So Esau's aware of this. And on a certain day, Esau went in the field to hunt, and he found Nimrod walking in the wilderness with his 2 men, and all his mighty men and his people were with him in the wilderness. But they removed at a distance from him, and they went from him in different directions to hunt. And Esau concealed himself for Nimrod, and he lurked for him in the wilderness. And Nimrod and his men that were with him did not know him. So that means they wasn't aware of him. And Nimrod and his men frequently walked about in the field at the cool of the day, and to know where his men were hunting in the field. And Nimrod and 2 of his men that were with them came to the place where they were, when Esau started suddenly from his lurking place and drew a sword, and hastened and ran to Nimrod and cut off his head. And Esau fought a desperate fight with the 2 men that were with Nimrod. And when they called out to him, Esau turned to them and smote them to death with a sword. All right. So Esau fought a desperate fight with the 2 men that were with Nimrod. And when they called out to him, Esau turned to them and smote them to death with the sword. And all the mighty men of Nimrod who had left him to go to the wilderness heard the cry at a distance. Okay, they heard the cry at a distance, and they knew the voices of those 2 men, and they ran to know the cause of it. When they found their king and his 2 men that were with him lying dead in the wilderness. And when Esau saw the mighty men of Nimrod coming at a distance, he fled and thereby escaped. And Esau took the valuable garments of Nimrod, which Nimrod's father had bequeathed to Nimrod, and with which Nimrod prevailed over the whole land. And he ran and concealed them in his house. And Esau took those garments and ran into the city on account of Nimrod's men. And he came into his father's house, wearied and exhausted from fight. And he was ready to die through grief when he approached his brother Jacob and sat before him. And he said unto his brother Jacob, Behold, I shall die this day, and wherefore then do I want the birthright? And Jacob acted wisely with Esau in this matter, and Esau sold his birthright to Jacob, for it was so brought about by Yahweh. And Esau's portion in the cave of the field of Machpelah, see that, which Abraham bought from the children of Heth for possession of a burial ground. Esau also sold to Jacob, and Jacob bought all this from his brother Esau for value given. And Jacob wrote the whole of this in a book, and he testified the same with witnesses, and he sealed it. And the book remained in the hands of Jacob. And when Nimrod, the son of Cush, died, his men lifted him up and brought him in consternation and buried him in his city. And all the days that Nimrod lived were 215 years, and he died. All right. And the days that Nimrod reigned upon the people of the land were 185 years. And Nimrod died by the sword of Esau in shame and contempt. And the seed of Abraham caused his death, as he had seen in his dream. And at the death of Nimrod, his kingdom became divided in many divisions. And all those parts that Nimrod reigned over were restored to the respective kings of the land, who recovered them after the death of Nimrod. And all the people of the house of Nimrod were for a long time enslaved to all the other kings of the land. See that?